Human soldier's scent drives alien princess wild. Her reaction shocks the galaxy. The stars burn cold above the jagged peaks of Valthara, a planet of violet skies and whispering winds that carried the scent of alien blooms. Private Ethan Cole, a scrappy human soldier from Earth's 7th Colonial Brigade, clung to the wreckage of his drop pod, its metal hull scorched and half buried in the crimson sand. His mission had been simple: scout the uncharted planet for resources. But a freak plasma storm had fried his navigation, sending him crashing into this alien wilderness. Now, stranded, with his comms spitting static and his survival kit dwindling, Ethan faced a truth as harsh as the desert sun. He was alone. Or so he thought. The air shimmered, and a figure emerged from the dunes. She moved with a predator's grace. Her silhouette, snippets of her silvery skin caught the light, shifting hues like liquid moonlight. Ethan's breath caught. She wasn't human. Her eyes, large and luminous, locked onto him, and for a moment, the galaxy seemed to shrink to just the two of them. She wore a flowing garment that barely clung to her lithe frame, and her presence radiated authority. Ethan, bruised and battered, raised his hands in surrender. "Hey, I come in peace," he called, his voice hoarse but steady. The alien tilted her head, her expression unreadable. She stepped closer, her nostrils flaring as if catching a scent on the wind. Ethan's heart pounded. He'd trained for first contact, but nothing prepared him for this. She spoke, her voice a melodic hum, but the words were gibberish. His translator implant buzzed, struggling to parse her language. Then abruptly, she froze. Her eyes widened, and her skin flushed a deep indigo. She leaned in, sniffing the air around him, her face inches from his. Ethan swallowed hard. Personal space? She didn't back off. Instead, her gaze intensified, and a low, almost purring sound escaped her throat. Ethan's survival instinct screamed danger, but something else, a flicker of curiosity, kept him rooted. The translator finally kicked in, spitting out fragmented words. "You sent chosen." Chosen? What the hell did that mean? Before he could ask, shadows stirred on the horizon. More aliens appeared, clad in sleek armor, their weapons glinting. The female barked a command, and they lowered their spears but didn't relax. She turned back to Ethan, her expression a mix of awe and confusion. The translator caught more. "You must face trial." Trial? Ethan's stomach dropped. He was no diplomat, just a grunt with a knack for staying alive. But the way she looked at him, like he was a puzzle she needed to solve, hinted this wasn't just about trespassing. They marched him across the dunes, the alien silence heavier than their spears. The female stayed close, her eyes never leaving him. Her skin flickered between shades, indigo, emerald, violet, as if her emotions were a light show. Ethan tried to focus, scanning for escape routes, but her proximity was distracting. Every time the wind shifted, she'd inhale deeply, and her colors would flare. He caught her muttering something about sacred scent. Great. His cheap colony-issued deodorant was apparently an alien aphrodisiac. They reached a towering city of crystal spires, its streets bustling with aliens whose skin shimmered like hers. Ethan felt like a rat in a lab, every eye on him. The female led him to a grand hall where a council of stern-faced aliens awaited. The air was thick with incense, and Ethan's head swam. The female stepped forward, her voice ringing out. The translator struggled, but caught the gist. This human bears the mark of prophecy. Prophecy? Ethan nearly laughed. He was a nobody, a kid from a backwater colony who joined the army to escape death. But the council's murmurs grew heated. One elder, his skin a dull gray, sneered, "A primitive? Impossible." The female, introduced as Princess Sylvara, stood firm. His scent, it calls. He must face the trials of valor. Ethan's gut twisted. Trial sounded like a death sentence. He raised a hand. "Look, I'm just here to scout, not to be your chosen one. Can we talk this out?" The council ignored him, but Sylvara's gaze softened, her skin glowing faintly pink. She leaned close, whispering, "Survive, and I will protect you." Her words sent a shiver down his spine. Protect him? Or claim him? Either way, he was in deep. The council declared he'd face the first trial at dawn, a test of strength against Valthara's deadliest beast. Ethan forced a grin. Beast, huh? Been there, done that. But as Sylvara's eyes lingered, her colors pulsing, he wondered if the real danger wasn't the trial, but her. As dawn broke over Valthara, the sky burned a fierce amethyst, casting eerie shadows across the crystal spires of the alien city. Ethan Cole stood in a vast arena carved from shimmering stone, its tiers packed with Valtharans, their skin flickering in a kaleidoscope of colors. Their murmurs buzzed like a swarm, curiosity and skepticism thick in the air. He adjusted his tattered uniform, the weight of their stares heavier than the plasma rifle he'd lost in the crash. Princess Sylvara stood on a high balcony, her luminous eyes fixed on him, her skin pulsing between violet and gold. Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that she was rooting for him, or sizing him up for something else entirely. The council elder, the gray-skinned one who'd called him primitive, stepped forward. His voice boomed through the translator. Human, you bear the scent of prophecy, yet you are untested. Face the Krythar beast in the trial of valor. Survive, and you may prove your worth. Fail, and your bones will bleach the sands. Ethan forced a smirk. No pressure, huh? The crowd's colors dimmed, as if his flippancy offended them. Sylvara's skin flared pink, though, and he swore she stifled a smile. The ground trembled as massive gates groaned open. The Krythar beast emerged, a hulking mass of scales and claws, its 6 eyes glowing like molten embers. It roared, shaking the arena, and Ethan's confidence wobbled. He had no weapons, just his survival knife and a lifetime of dodging trouble. The elder's voice cut through. Begin. The beast charged, faster than anything that size had a right to be. Ethan dove behind a boulder, heart hammering. Okay, big guy, let's dance. He scrambled, using the arena's jagged terrain to his advantage, ducking and weaving as the Krythar's claws slashed inches from his back. The crowd's colors shifted, some to dull grays of doubt, others to bright reds of excitement. Sylvara leaned forward, her skin a vivid crimson. Ethan's mind raced. He couldn't outmuscle this thing, but maybe he could outsmart it. Spotting a cluster of loose rocks overhead, he baited the beast, sprinting toward the unstable ledge. As it lunged, he dove aside, and the Krythar's bulk slammed into the rocks, triggering a cascade that pinned its tail. It thrashed, momentarily trapped. Ethan didn't hesitate. He climbed the beast's back, jamming his knife into a gap between its scales. It howled, bucking wildly, but he held on, riding it like a rodeo bull. The crowd erupted, their colors blazing. Sylvara's skin glowed a dazzling gold, her eyes wide with something like awe. With a final twist, Ethan drove the knife deeper, and the beast collapsed, its roars fading to a gurgle. He slid off, panting, covered in dust and alien ichor. The arena fell silent, then exploded in a riot of color and sound. The elder approached, his expression sour. You survive for now. The trials continue. Ethan wiped sweat from his brow. Bring it on. But his bravado masked a gnawing worry. One trial down, and he was already beat. How many more could he take? Sylvara descended from the balcony, her movements fluid, her scent like jasmine and ozone, hitting him as she neared. You fought with cunning, she said, her voice low. Few Valtharans would dare such a tactic. Ethan shrugged. Gotta work with what I've got. Her skin flickered pink again, and she stepped closer, sniffing the air. Your scent, it grows stronger. Before he could respond, guards escorted him to a chamber within the city's central spire. The walls pulsed with soft light, and a low hum vibrated the air. Sylvara followed, dismissing the guards with a gesture. Alone, she studied him, her colors shifting rapidly. The prophecy speaks of a stranger whose essence awakens the heart of Valthara, she said. Your scent, it stirs me. Ethan blinked. Lady, I haven't showered in days. That's probably not prophecy, just bad hygiene. She tilted her head, confused, then laughed, a sound like chiming bells. His chest tightened. Damn, she was trouble. Sylvara's laugh lingered in the chamber, a melody that softened the sterile glow of the crystal walls. Ethan leaned against the slab, trying to ignore the ache in his muscles and the way her proximity made his pulse race. She paced slowly, her silvery blue skin catching the light like polished metal. Your humor, she said. It is strange. Valtharans do not jest in the face of death. Ethan grinned. Keeps me sane. You should try it sometime. Her luminous eyes narrowed. You mock me? Nah, he said, raising his hands. Just saying, life's too short to be serious all the time. Even on a planet where everything wants to kill me. She studied him, then stepped closer, her scent enveloping him. Your scent, it is not just humor. It is strength, resilience. Ethan swallowed, caught off guard by her intensity. Thanks? I think. She explained more about Valthara's culture. Their society revered scent as a mark of destiny, a biological signature that revealed truth. Ethan's pheromones, some quirk of human chemistry, matched an ancient prophecy about a star-bound one who'd unite their people. That's why you're sniffing me like I'm a bakery? He asked, half joking. Her silvery blue skin gleamed as she looked away. It is involuntary. Your essence calls to me. Ethan's face heated. Okay, that's new. Their conversation shifted to the trials. Sylvara admitted the council doubted him, especially Elder Karath, the gray-skinned skeptic. They see your kind as weak, she said. No claus, no scalis, no psychic gifts. Yet you felled the Krythar with a blade and wit. Ethan shrugged. Humans are scrappy. We make do. Her fingers touched his arm, cool but electric. You are more than scrappy, Ethan Cole. The contact sent a jolt through him, and she held his gaze, unflinching. She guided him through the city, showing him Valthara's wonders, gardens of glowing flora, markets buzzing with vendors, and temples where priests burned incense that made his head spin. Everywhere, Valtharan stared, some curious, others hostile. Sylvara stayed close, her presence a shield against their scrutiny. At a stall, she offered him a fruit that pulsed like a heartbeat. Try it, she urged. He bit into it, and sweetness exploded on his tongue, followed by a tingling warmth. Whoa, he said, grinning. That's better than army rations. Her laugh returned, and he realized he'd do a lot to hear it again. But tension simmered beneath the surface. In a quiet plaza, Sylvara revealed the stakes. If Ethan failed the trials, the council could declare war on human colonies, fearing the prophecy's disruption. Karath seeks to discredit you, she warned. He believes only a Valtharan can be the star-bound one. Ethan's jaw tightened. So, I'm not just fighting for me. Figures. Her silvery blue skin caught the light as she met his gaze. I wish it were not so, but I will stand by you. Her sincerity hit him hard. Thanks, Sylvara. Means more than you know. Their walk ended at a balcony overlooking the city's glowing spires. The twin moons hung low, bathing Valthara in silver light. Sylvara stood close, her shoulder brushing his. Your world, she said softly, does it shine like this? Ethan thought of Earth's dusty colonies, all grit and grind. Not exactly, but it's home. She turned to him, her eyes searching. And you, do you have one who waits for you there? The question caught him off guard. Nah, he said, voice low. Just me and the stars. Her breath hitched, and she leaned closer. Then perhaps the stars have led you here. Before he could respond, a distant rumble shook the city. Alarms wailed, and Valtharans scattered, their faces tight with panic. Sylvara grabbed his arm. The labyrinth, it stirs. Ethan's heart sank. The next trial was coming sooner than he'd hoped, and the city's fear told him it wouldn't be a walk in the park. The rumble faded, but the city's alarms still echoed, sharp and urgent. Ethan's boots crunched on the balcony's crystal floor as he followed Sylvara through the chaos, her silvery blue skin catching the moonlight like polished metal. Valtharans rushed past, their faces tight with fear, but Sylvara's stride was steady, her presence a beacon in the panic. She led him to a sheltered alcove overlooking the labyrinth of minds, its glowing spires pulsing erratically below. "The labyrinth is unstable," she said, her voice taut. "Its energy could tear the city apart if the trial fails." Ethan rubbed his neck, the weight of her words sinking in. "So, no pressure, right? Just save your whole planet." Her luminous eyes flicked to him, and a faint smile curved her lips. "You jest even now. It is endearing." He chuckled, but the sound was strained. Endearing or not, he was one wrong move from becoming cosmic toast. She stepped closer, her jasmine and ozone scent wrapping around him. "Ethan, the labyrinth tests more than intellect. It probes the heart. You must face your fears, your truths." Her fingers brushed his wrist, cool and deliberate, sending a spark up his arm. He met her gaze, caught by the intensity there. "And you? What's your truth, Sylvara?" Her expression softened, vulnerable for the first time. "I am bound by duty, but your scent, your spirit, it pulls me. I fear what it means." His throat tightened. Fear it? He was half terrified himself, caught between survival and whatever this was growing between them. "Look," he said, voice low, "I'm no prophet, but I don't back down. We'll figure this out, together." Her hand lingered on his, and for a moment, the alarm seemed distant, the world narrowing to just them. A guard's shout broke the spell, summoning Sylvara to the council. She pulled back, her silvery blue skin gleaming under the moons. "Prepare yourself, Ethan. The labyrinth awaits." As she left, her glance lingered, a silent promise that she'd be watching. Ethan exhaled, his mind racing. He wasn't just fighting for his life anymore. Her faith in him, her world, was on the line. And damn if that didn't make him want to prove them all wrong. The alarm's wail faded as Ethan stood alone in the alcove, the labyrinth of minds glowing ominously below like a nest of angry stars. The air felt heavier now, charged with a psychic hum that prickled his skin. He clenched his fists, Sylvara's parting words echoing in his mind. The labyrinth tests the heart. He wasn't sure what scared him more, the maze's traps or the way her touch lingered, like a promise he didn't know how to keep. But the city's panic and the council's doubts left no room for hesitation. If he didn't solve this, Valthara, and maybe every human colony, would pay the price. Guards arrived, their armor clanking, and escorted him to the labyrinth's entrance. The crowd had thinned, but those who remained watched with tense faces, their whispers sharp. Elder Karath stood at the gate, his gray skin stark against the glowing crystals. "Human," he sneered, "the labyrinth of minds has broken stronger souls than yours. Its riddles unravel the weak." Ethan met his gaze, forcing a grin. "Good thing I'm too stubborn to unravel." Karath's eyes narrowed, but he stepped aside, gesturing to the maze's yawning maw. The labyrinth's walls shimmered, their surfaces alive with shifting patterns, fractals, star maps, and fleeting images of Valtharan warriors. The psychic hum grew louder, pressing against Ethan's temples like a vice. His translator buzzed, spitting out cryptic phrases. "Seek the balance, sacrifice the self." He took a deep breath, the memory of Sylvara's faith steadying him. "All right, let's play your game," he muttered, stepping inside. The maze twisted around him, its paths splitting and reforming like a living thing. Beams of light shot from the walls, forcing him to duck and roll. Each near miss burned the air, leaving a tang of ozone. The images on the walls grew vivid. Valtharans battling monstrous machines, a city crumbling under a red sky, a lone figure sealing a glowing vault. Ethan's head throbbed, the psychic pressure digging into his thoughts, whispering doubts. "You know, hero, you'll fail her. You'll fail them all." He shook it off, focusing on the clues. Balance. Sacrifice. He'd figured out worse with less. But the labyrinth wasn't just testing his brain. The deeper he went, the more it clawed at his emotions. Visions flickered, not Valtharan, but his own. His childhood on a dusty colony, watching ships vanish into the stars. His squad, lost in a raid gone wrong, their faces fading as he ran. Guilt twisted in his gut, sharper than any trap. "Get out of my head," he growled, pressing forward. The maze responded, its walls tightening, the beams coming faster. He dove behind a crystal outcrop, heart pounding. This wasn't just a puzzle. It was a mind game, and it was winning. Then he heard it, a low, resonant pulse like a heartbeat. It came from Amaze's core, where the light was brightest. Ethan pushed on, dodging another beam that singed his sleeve. The images shifted again, showing a Valtharan priestess holding a glowing orb, her face serene as she gave her life to seal the vault. Sacrifice. Itansku churned. Was that what the maze wanted? His life? He wasn't ready to sign off yet. Not with Sylvara waiting, not with a war looming. He reached a chamber where the pulse was deafening, the air thick with energy. A pedestal held a glowing orb, its surface swirling with light. The translator hissed, "Touch and be judged." Ethan hesitated. Karatha's warning about the unworthy echoed, but so did Sylvara's belief in him. He glanced back, half expecting her to appear, her silvery blue form a lifeline. But he was alone. "Screw it," he said, and grabbed the orb. Pain seared through him, like lightning in his veins. Visions flooded his mind. Valthara's war, the vault's creation, a weapon that could shatter worlds. The priestess's voice rang out. "Choose the path of balance, or all is lost." Ethan gasped, his knees buckling, but he held on. The maze was testing his resolve, his willingness to put others before himself. He thought of Sylvara, her world, his colonies. If he failed, they'd all burn. With a roar, he forced his will into the orb, picturing peace, not power. The pain stopped. The walls parted, revealing a clear path to the exit. Ethan staggered forward, the crowd's cheers faint through the ringing in his ears. Sylvara rushed to him, her silvery blue skin gleaming, her eyes wide with relief. "You did it," she breathed, steadying him. "You saw the truth." Ethan managed a weak grin. "Yeah, and it sucked." Her laugh was a balm, but Karatha's voice cut through. "The final trial remains, the duel of spirit. Fail, and your prophecy dies." Ethan's stomach dropped. A duel? He was barely standing. Sylvara's hand tightened on his arm, her scent grounding him. "You are stronger than they know," she whispered. But as guards led him away, Karatha's smirk told him the worst was yet to come. The labyrinth had tested his mind, but the duel would test his soul, and the council was betting he'd break. Ethan's legs felt like lead as the guards marched him from the labyrinth's exit to a fortified chamber deep within the city's central spire. The psychic hum of the maze still buzzed in his skull, a nagging reminder of how close he'd come to losing himself. Sylvara's words, "You are stronger than they know," kept him upright, but Karatha's smug warning about the duel of spirit loomed like a storm cloud. He didn't know what the final trial entailed, but the elder's confidence that he'd fail was a bad sign. Ethan wiped sweat from his brow, muttering, "If I survive this, I'm demanding a vacation." The chamber was stark, its walls etched with Valtharan runes that glowed faintly. A low table held a spread of strange, pulsating fruits and a pitcher of shimmering liquid. The guards left him alone, and Ethan sank onto a cushioned bench, his body screaming for rest. He grabbed a fruit, its texture like a soft sponge, and took a cautious bite. It tasted like honey and lightning, jolting his senses awake. "Not bad," he said, downing a gulp of the liquid. It burned going down, but warmth spread through him, easing his aches. He'd need every edge for whatever came next. The door hissed open, and Sylvara entered, her silvery blue skin catching the rune's glow. Her expression was tight, her usual grace edged with urgency. "Ethan, we must speak quickly," she said, closing the distance between them. Her jasmine and ozone scent hit him, grounding him despite the tension. "The duel of spirit is no mere fight. It is a ritual of truth, a confrontation with the champion's essence. And Korath has chosen Valthara's fiercest warrior, Zorith." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Fiercest, huh? Sounds like a party." She didn't smile. "Zorith is undefeated. His psychic strength can shatter minds. And Korath, he suspects the prophecy is a lie. He will use the duel to destroy you and discredit me." Her voice wavered, and Ethan's chest tightened. This wasn't just about him anymore. Sylvara's faith in the prophecy, her position as princess, was on the line. He stood, ignoring his sore muscles. So what's the catch? How do I beat a guy who can fry my brain? Sylvara's eyes searched his, her fingers brushing his arm. The duel tests not just strength but will. You must face Zoratha's psychic assault and stand firm. But there is more. She hesitated, then pulled a small, glowing vial from her robe. This is essence of Valthara, a sacred compound. It amplifies one's spirit, but for a human, it could be deadly. Ethan stared at the vial, its light pulsing like a heartbeat. Let me get this straight. You want me to drink alien Red Bull, knowing it might kill me? Her silvery blue skin gleamed as she met his gaze, unflinching. It is a risk, Ethan, but without it, Zorath will crush you. I cannot lose you. Her voice cracked, and the raw emotion in it hit him like a punch. She wasn't just a princess protecting her people. She cared about him, maybe more than duty allowed. He took the vial, its warmth seeping into his palm. You're sure this'll help? She nodded, but her eyes betrayed fear. It will bind your essence to Valthara's heart, strengthening your will. But the cost, she trailed off, and Ethan's gut twisted. Cost. He'd faced death before, raids, crashes, that damn Krythar beast, but this felt different. This was a choice, one that could change him forever. Or end him. He paced, the vial heavy in his hand. Sylvara watched, silent, her scent filling the air. He thought of his squad, gone because he couldn't save them. Of his colonies, at risk if Karatha's war happened. Of Sylvara, risking everything to back a nobody like him. All right, he said finally, his voice steady. I'll do it. For you, for your people, and maybe a little for me. He flashed a grin, but his heart pounded. This was no joke. Sylvara's relief was palpable, her hand squeezing his. You are brave, Ethan Cole. More than you know. She guided him to a rune-etched circle in the chamber's center, where the air thrummed with energy. Drink now, she said, and let Valthara judge you. Ethan uncorked the vial, its glow bathing his face. The liquid smelled sharp, like ozone and spice. He glanced at Sylvara, her silvery blue form a steady anchor. Here goes nothing, he said, and downed in one gulp. Fire erupted in his chest, spreading to his limbs. He gasped, dropping to his knees as visions flooded his mind. Not just Valthara's past, but his own, sharper than in the labyrinth. His failures, his fears, his stubborn refusal to quit. The runes flared, and a voice, not Sylvara's, but something ancient, whispered, You are bound. Rise or fall. His body shook, but he forced himself up, gripping Sylvara's hand. Her eyes widened. Your scent. It is stronger, alive with Valthara's heart. The chamber door burst open, and Koroth stormed in, Zorath at his side. A towering Valtharan with eyes like burning coals. The human dares taint our sacred right. Koroth spat. Zorath's gaze locked onto Ethan, a psychic pressure already probing his mind. Ethan staggered but held firm, the essence's fire burning away his doubt. Taint it, he shot back, voice raw. I'm just getting started. Sylvara stepped between them, her silvery blue skin gleaming defiantly. He has chosen, Koroth. The duel will prove him. Karatha's sneer deepened, but he gestured to the arena beyond. Then let him face his end. As Ethan followed, Sylvara's hand brushed his, a silent vow. The essence coursed through him, amplifying every sense. Her scent, her faith, the stakes. He wasn't just a soldier anymore. He was something more, and the duel would decide what. The arena pulsed with the heartbeat of Valthara, its crystal walls amplifying the crowd's roar as Ethan Cole stepped onto the shimmering floor. The essence of Valthara burned in his veins, a wildfire that sharpened every sense. The tang of ozone in the air, the weight of Sylvara's faith, the menace in Zoratha's coal-black eyes. The towering Valtharan champion loomed across the arena, his armor etched with runes that glowed like embers. Elder Koroth stood on a high platform, his gray skin stark against the vibrant crowd, his smirk a blade aimed at Ethan's heart. Sylvara, her silvery blue skin gleaming under the twin moons, watched from a balcony, her hands gripping the railing. Ethan caught her gaze, and her nod was a spark, igniting his resolve. This was it, the duel of spirit. Win, and he'd prove the prophecy. Lose, and he'd lose everything. The crowd's chants swelled, a rhythmic pulse that matched the arena's energy. Karath raised a hand, silencing them. Human, he boomed, you dare claim the title of Starbound One. Face Zorith in the duel of spirit, where truth is your only weapon. Fall, and your kind will answer for your arrogance. Ethan's jaw tightened. Big talk for a guy who's not fighting, he shot back. The crowd gasped, but Sylvara's lips twitched, a flicker of pride in her eyes. Karath's sneer deepened. Begin. Zorith moved first, his presence a psychic hammer slamming into Ethan's mind. Pain erupted behind his eyes, like shards of glass grinding through his thoughts. Visions flashed, his squad screams, his colony's dust-choked streets, Sylvara's face twisted in grief. Ethan staggered, clutching his head. Not real, he growled, forcing himself upright. The essence surged, a fiery shield against Zorith's assault. He focused on Sylvara's scent, jasmine and ozone, anchoring him to the present. You'll have to do better than that, big guy. Zorith's eyes narrowed, and the pressure intensified, a tidal wave of fear and doubt. Ethan's knees buckled, but he remembered the labyrinth, the orb, the choice for peace over power. He wasn't just a soldier. He was human, stubborn as hell. He pushed back, picturing his squad's laughter, his mother's voice, Sylvara's touch. The essence amplified his will, and Zorith flinched, his psychic grip slipping. The crowd murmured, their faces alight with shock. Ethan grinned, blood trickling from his nose. What's wrong? Losing your edge. The champion roared, abandoning subtlety. A psychic blast hit Ethan like a freight train, hurling him across the arena. He slammed into the crystal wall, pain exploding in his ribs. The crowd's chants faltered, and Sylvara's cry cut through the haze. Ethan! Her voice was a lifeline, pulling him to his feet. Zorith advanced, his mind probing deeper, unearthing Ethan's darkest memory, the raid where he'd frozen, watching his squad die. You failed them, Zorith's voice hissed in his head. You'll fail her. Ethan's vision blurred, guilt choking him. He saw Sylvara, her silvery blue form, her eyes pleading. He couldn't let her down. Drawing on the essence, Ethan did something reckless. Instead of shielding his mind, he opened it, letting Zorith see everything, his pain, his losses, but also his refusal to quit. You want to play dirty? He gasped. Here's me. He flooded Zorith with memories of human resilience. Soldiers sharing rations, colonists rebuilding after storms, his own stubborn survival. The champion staggered, overwhelmed by the raw, chaotic strength of Ethan's spirit. The crowd gasped, sensing the shift. Sylvara leaned forward, her breath caught. But Zorith wasn't done. With a bellow, he unleashed a final psychic surge, a maelstrom that tore at Ethan's core. The arena spun, and Ethan fell to his knees, the essence's fire flickering. He saw Sylvara, her silvery blue, form a beacon, and remembered her words, the duel tests will. This wasn't about strength. It was about standing up, no matter the odds. With a guttural yell, Ethan surged to his feet, his mind a blazing defiance. I'm not done, he roared, and pushed back with everything he had, every loss, every hope, every moment with Sylvara. The psychic clash lit the arena in a blinding flash. Zorith screamed, collapsing as his mind buckled under Ethan's onslaught. Ethan swayed, barely standing, blood dripping from his nose and ears. The crowd fell silent, their faces frozen. Karath's smirk vanished, replaced by disbelief. Sylvara vaulted from the balcony, landing beside Ethan and catching him as he stumbled. You did it, she whispered, her voice trembling. You broke him. Ethan managed a weak grin. Told you, humans are scrappy. But the arena's energy shifted, a low hum rising from the crystal floor. The runes flared, and a holographic image materialized, a Valtharan priestess, her form ghostly but commanding. The Starbound One has proven his spirit, she intoned, her voice echoing. but the prophecy demands more. The crowd murmured, and Ethan's heart sank. More? He could barely stand. The priestess's gaze fixed on him. The vault of Valthara stirs, its power unbound by your victory. Choose now, wield it, or seal it forever. Ethan blinked, the weight of her words crashing down. The vault, the weapon from his visions, capable of destroying worlds. He glanced at Sylvara, her silvery blue skin gleaming, her eyes wide with fear and trust. Karath shouted, "Seize the power! Prove your worth!" The crowd's chants grew chaotic, some urging conquest, others peace. Ethan's mind raced. Wielding the vault could make humans untouchable, but at what cost? He remembered the labyrinth's lesson: sacrifice over power. He thought of his colonies, of Sylvara's people, of a future where they didn't have to fight. He turned to Sylvara, his voice hoarse. "You trust me?" She nodded, her hand squeezing his. "Always." Ethan faced the priestess, the essence still burning in him. "I choose to seal it," he declared. "No one needs that kind of power." The crowd gasped, and Karath roared in protest, but the priestess's form glowed brighter. "So be it," she said. The arena shook as the runes pulsed, a wave of energy washing over Valthara. Ethan felt the vault's power fade, locked away once more. The hologram vanished, and the crowd erupted, their cheers deafening. Sylvara pulled Ethan close, her scent enveloping him. "You chose peace," she murmured, her eyes shining. "You are the star-bound one." Ethan chuckled, wincing at his bruised ribs. "Yeah, well, peace sounds good right now." But Karatha's voice cut through, venomous. "This changes nothing. The human is no savior." Before he could continue, a new sound pierced the air, a deep, resonant hum from the sky. A massive shadow loomed overhead, blotting out the moons. A Valtharan warship, its hull scarred and ancient, descended, its lights bathing the arena. The crowd froze, and Sylvara's grip tightened. "The Guardians," she whispered, awe in her voice. A hatch opened, and a figure emerged, an elder Valtharan, her robes flowing, her presence commanding. "The vault's sealing has awakened us," she announced. "The star-bound one has fulfilled the prophecy, uniting our past with our future." Ethan's jaw dropped. "Guardians? What now?" The elder approached, her eyes piercing. "Human, your scent woke Valthara's heart, but your choice saved it. We are the keepers of our ancient pact, exiled until the prophecy's truth was proven." She turned to the crowd. "Karatha's doubts are dust. This human is our bridge to the stars." The crowd roared, and Karath shrank back, his authority crumbling. Sylvara's laugh rang out, bright and triumphant, as she leaned into Ethan. "You shocked the galaxy," she said, her silvery blue skin warm against his. The Guardian's leader raised a hand, silencing the cheers. "The Starbound One's trials are complete, but his path continues. Will you stay, human, and guide us?" Ethan looked at Sylvara, her eyes holding a question he wasn't ready to answer. He grinned, blood and sweat streaking his face. "Let's just say I'm not done surprising you." The crowd's cheers swallowed his words, and Sylvara's smile was brighter than the moon's, a promise of what lay ahead. The Valtharan warship loomed above the arena, its ancient hull casting a shadow that hushed the crowd's cheers. Ethan Cole leaned against Sylvara, his body battered but his spirit unbroken, the essence of Valthara still a faint ember in his veins. The Guardian's leader, her robes flowing like liquid starlight, stood before him, her presence commanding yet warm. Sylvara's silvery blue skin gleamed in the ship's glow, her hand steady on Ethan's arm. The air buzzed with anticipation, the weight of the prophecy's fulfillment settling over Valthara like a new dawn. Ethan's head spun. "Hero, Starbound One, bridge to the stars?" He just wanted a nap. The Guardian Elder raised her hands, her voice carrying across the arena. "People of Valthara, the vault is sealed, its curse lifted by the human's choice. Ethan Cole has proven his heart, uniting our past with our future." The crowd erupted, their chants a tidal wave of gratitude. Ethan caught Sylvara's eye, her smile brighter than the moon's. Told you I'd surprise them, he muttered, wincing as his ribs protested. She laughed, the sound of melody that eased his pain. You have done more than surprise, Ethan. You have changed us. Karath, his gray skin paler now, stood at the platform's edge, his authority shattered. The Guardian's leader turned to him, her gaze sharp. Elder Karath, your doubts endangered our world. Step down and let wisdom guide us. The crowd murmured, some nodding, others glaring at Karath. He opened his mouth to protest, but the weight of the Guardian's presence silenced him. With a final, venomous glance at Ethan, he retreated, vanishing into the crowd. Ethan exhaled. Good riddance, he said under his breath. Sylvara's fingers tightened on his arm, a silent agreement. The Guardian's leader gestured to the warship. Come, Starbound One. We must speak of Valthara's path. Ethan hesitated, glancing at Sylvara. Leaving the arena felt like stepping into a bigger unknown, and he wasn't sure he was ready for more cosmic responsibility. But her nod was steady, her silvery blue skin a beacon of trust. Together, she whispered, and he nodded, letting her lead him toward the ship's ramp. The crowd parted, their faces alight with awe, some reaching out as if to touch the human who defied their world's odds. Aboard the warship, the air was cool, the walls lined with glowing panels that hummed with ancient tech. The Guardian's leader, who introduced herself as Vera, led them to a chamber overlooking Valthara's violet skies. Your choice to seal the vault, Vera said, preserved not just Valthara, but the galaxy. The weapon's power tempted many, yet you chose peace. Ethan shifted, uncomfortable with the praise. Didn't feel like much of a choice. Power like that, it's a trap. Vera's eyes softened. Wisdom, not strength, marks a true leader. Sylvara stood close, her jasmine and ozone scent grounding him. Ethan's heart spoke before his mind. She said, her voice proud. He fought for us, not for glory. Ethan's face heated. Yeah, well, your faith kind of helped. Vera smiled, a rare warmth in her ancient face. Your bond strengthens the prophecy. Valthara and humanity must learn from each other, and you, Ethan, are the bridge. The word bridge hit him hard. He thought of his colonies, scrappy and struggling, and Valthara's wonders, garden spires, a people who doubted him but now cheered his name. Could he really connect those worlds? He glanced at Sylvara, her silvery blue skin catching the starlight through the viewport. Her belief in him was a weight, but also a spark. I'm no diplomat, he said, voice low, but I'll try. For her. For all of you. Vera nodded, handing him a small, rune-etched device. This will link you to us, should you need our aid. Valthara is your home, if you choose it. Ethan pocketed the device, its weight a reminder of the stakes. He looked at Sylvara, her eyes searching his. Home's a big word, he said, grinning, but I'm not running off just yet. Her laugh was soft, her hand finding his, and for a moment, the galaxy felt small, just them and the stars. They returned to the arena, where the crowd waited, their chants now a song of unity. Vera addressed them, declaring a new era of peace, with Ethan as Valthara's honored guest. The Valtharans surged forward, offering gifts, glowing fruits, woven fabrics, even a tiny crystal that hummed when Ethan touched it. He accepted them with a sheepish grin, muttering to Sylvara, I'm going to need a bigger backpack. Her laughter rang out, and she leaned close, her breath warm. You will need more than that, Ethan Cole. As night deepened, the crowd dispersed, leaving Ethan and Sylvara alone under the twin moons. The arena was quiet now, its crystal walls reflecting the starlight. She led him to a secluded garden, its glowing flora casting soft light on her silvery blue skin. You could leave, she said, her voice soft but steady. Your people need you, as mine do me. Ethan's chest tightened. Leaving meant safety, a return to his old life. But it also meant leaving her, and that thought hurt more than his bruises. He took her hand, his calloused fingers rough against her smooth skin. I'm not great at goodbyes, he said. And you, You're worth sticking around for. Her eyes widened, and she stepped closer, her scent enveloping him. Then stay, Ethan. Be my bridge, my partner. The word partner carried a weight that made his heart race. He grinned, leaning in. Partner, huh? I like the sound of that. Their lips met, a spark that felt like the essence itself, and the garden seemed to glow brighter, as if Valthara approved. When they pulled back, Sylvara's smile was radiant. You have shocked the galaxy, she said, echoing her earlier words. And you have shocked me. Ethan chuckled, his arm around her. Good. Keeps things interesting. Above, the warship's lights faded as it rose, a silent promise of alliance. Ethan looked at the stars, then at Sylvara. He wasn't just a soldier anymore. He was home, and the future, messy, wild, and full of her, was his to shape.